Back to my blog post. Today or last week in class, we had two classmates from the class for us and we watched different TED Talks, and our assignment was then to analyze these TED Talks and really understand them. So the first one that I decided to look at was by Joanna Blakely, and it's her talk about fashion. So I kind of just broke the blog down into a few different parts. So obviously first, like we learned in class, it's very easy to replicate clothing and accessories because you're unable to patent it. So the first question that comes to mind is it illegal that you could simply copy the exact thing that someone else made? Unfortunately, in this case, no, it's not, because in the fashion industry, there's very little intellectual property protection. There's only trademark protection. So with logos and things like that, you can't copy that, but you could copy the actual style. And this is why sometimes we see companies blast their logos on their handbags or on their shirts, because then it makes it harder to copy since you can't copy the exact trademark. So why is it this way that you can't copy clothing or accessories even if it's someone's, innovation or design? The reason is that the patent office has decided that you shouldn't be able to patent it because they're too utilitarian, meaning that clothes are too essential and basic and they don't want to have a bunch of licensing going on, which I think in my mind could potentially, increase the cost of it. They say, however, Joanna Blakely says that, she wouldn't really think of clothing as being too utilitarian. Maybe they get kind of silly or unnecessary at times, but they generally tend to be pretty innovative and colorful. So her argument comes down to the fact that because there is no copyright protection, fashion designers have really been able to elevate clothing into something considered art. They have to be very open-minded and they have spurs of innovation, using old items but also coming up with new ones. The magical side effect of the culture of copying is that then there are trends. Because people see something and then they copy it and then they continue to produce it. So when there are lawsuits about this, they always tend to lose because, like they've said, you don't have any right over the things that you produce from people copying them. In my blog, I actually put a picture of a Celine bag, which is incredibly expensive. Like the one here says that it's $2,500, but they can be much more expensive. And then there's a bag to the right of it, which is $44 that looks virtually identical to it. So it just shows that they really can do the exact same thing. Which also leads to the question, how then do the more expensive brands stay in business? And the simple answer to this is that you can simply find that the person purchasing the counterfeit item is not the customer that's ever going to purchase the real item. So they're really appealing to two different demographics completely. And so when you're making the $2,500 bag, it's not like by then creating the counterfeit one, you're taking away customers or profit because they would have never bought it in the first place. But because it is this way, designers have felt the need to constantly innovate and get more creative. A shoe designer, for one instance, made a shoe that only could be made out of very expensive material, otherwise it would collapse, to try to avoid people copying it. So they really do continue to push themselves. So even though there isn't intellectual property production, it has a reverse effect in still making people want to innovate just as much. So overall, I found this to be really, really interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you.